so everybody's smiling. All right, and I believe we are live right now on Facebook. Hello, everybody out there watching. We're going to get started in a moment. As always, we tend to sign in a little early just so that we could see everyone or imagine everyone's great faces out there tuning in tonight. This is the Cobb Community Alliance Candidate Forum. For those of you that have been watching, and I've gotten some feedback that some have watched all 10, so we thank you for that. This is the 10th candidate forum. So we're excited for you to be here and excited in a moment to introduce these two great candidates. For those out there that are eager to get out there and vote, today is the first day of early voting. So you have your opportunity to get out and cast your vote. Every vote counts. So we're excited about that. But if you give us 1 minute to allow everyone to join in with us, we will then get started. All right. And I'm reminded as I look at Flynn that I have not put my jacket on. Please forgive me, but I'm going to keep my jacket off. But I appreciate you, everyone. Let me also share with you our storyline on the Cobb Community Alliance. And I'm just going to check in with the folks that are live with me that my screen is showing the same thing that I showed everyone earlier. My PowerPoint's live. When Joetta?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Well, yes gets it. All right, listen, we're at the minute, and I am guilty of one thing, starting promptly. So first of all, again, thank you for those of you tuning in. We are the Cobb Community Alliance. This is the Cobb County Candidate Forum. Say that 3 times fast. I'd like to take a moment and share with you a little bit about the Cobb Community Alliance, and then we'll jump right into the candidate forum that we're hosting tonight. But we thank you for participating. And again, thank those of you that have been with us for all 10. We have 1 more left, so stay tuned. But for those of you that are joining us for the first time here tonight, the Cobb Community Alliance started a little bit about a year and a month or 2 ago. So August of last year, we started. Few of organizations got together and decided that we would be stronger together, working on voter engagement, working on community issues and opportunities, and working on opportunities for youth empowerment. So if you look at this list that I have in front of you and notice or recognize some of the names, you'll see that the whole Divine Nine, meaning the top African-American fraternities and sororities, are all represented that are in Cobb. Iota Phi Theta is not, does not have a chapter in Cobb County. You'll notice that the whole Masonic community, including the Masons, Shriners, and Eastern Stars, have participated. You'll notice some community organizations like the FASKIA, Friends and Sisters Keepers in Action, and the Austell Community Taskforce. You'll notice that the Cobb Ministerial Alliance, for those of you that don't know, the Cobb Ministerial Alliance, a great organization aligning some of the small and medium-sized African-American churches in Cobb County. And you'll notice the Cobb County civil rights community held up on both sides by the NAACP and the SCLC. And then the HBCU Alumni Alliance, which we're excited to be a part of this, which is probably like the 5th or 6th largest African-American group in all of the state of Georgia, hosting the most robust collection of alumni from HBCUs and henceforth their associations. So we represent everybody. We also are real pleased to talk about the fact that we can touch about 85% of the African-American voting population because we represent every aspect of the African-American community. So events like tonight is part of that collaboration. We are super, 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 super excited. We have two phenomenal candidates for the Cobb County District Attorney. Ms. Holmes is the current residing district attorney for the county. Flynn Brody is a very credible and incredible lawyer. So tonight they're going to get to share their vision. Now, they're probably tired of me saying this, and it's not because I say it to every candidate. This tonight, and for those of you that have been with us, this is not a debate. This is an opportunity to put some reasonable questions in front of two great folks and hear their perspective, opinions, and experience on how to tackle these kinds of opportunities. So what better way than to have a great host, Felicia Sneed, who many folks in the community know her because she's involved in too many things to mention, but we're just excited because of her multiple community leadership and her involvement with youth empowerment that she has decided to join us tonight as moderator. But in traditional style of all the 17 organizations that are involved, that are Christian-based, we start off all of our meetings with a prayer. So in that spirit, if you would allow me just one more moment of time to just bow our heads and allow me to lead us in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, first of all, we thank you for this opportunity to come in front of you. We thank you for an opportunity to present servants in your community. We pray through the Holy Spirit that you touch both of them, empower them, lift up their visions for how to make Cobb County a safer and better place. We pray that during this time frame that there are voters that are listening in that may not know about the great things that a district attorney does, that you take this opportunity through these two folks to lift up what a district attorney does and empower these folks so that they could help to make this a safer and better community. We pray that you take this time and take these two candidates and allow no weapon formed to prosper against them. We pray that even if one of these two candidates does not make it into the role, that you still take this opportunity to take something that was said here and empower them to still be a strong, strong and powerful advocate in the community. We pray this and all prayers for all the organizations involved, for all the members of those organizations, for all the citizens of Cobb County, for all the citizens of Georgia, and yes, the citizens of the United States. We pray all these prayers in the mighty and blessed name of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. Thank you, thank you, thank you. At this time, I'm gonna change up my screen a little bit. So bear with me 1 second. And I'm gonna turn this over to Felicia to introduce herself and introduce these great candidates. And Felicia, if you give me one more moment, I'm gonna just change one more thing on my screen. And I'm gonna ask the candidates, inclusive of myself from this point on, unless you're speaking, we're gonna go ahead and mute your mics and just leave Felicia's on, and then Felicia will mute hers while the next person's speaking. All right, with that being said, Felicia, if you speak, the screen turns over to you.
Okay, great. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy schedules. I know that everybody's probably zoomed out and another Zoom call is the last thing that you need right now. But in the face of what we are dealing with in our society, I thought that this is an opportunity for you guys to get to know your candidate for district attorney for Cobb County. My name is Felicia Sneed. Thank you for the introduction, Leroy. I am a member of multiple organizations. However, I would like to highlight three that I'm very active with in the role of operations, secretarial administration. FASKIA, which is Friends and Sisters Keepers in Action. It's a nonprofit organization that was established in Powder Springs, Georgia, Cobb County, back in 2013. The founder and president, her name is Doris Dawkins. Her gift of giving back is something that's not new. This is something that she's grown up with. She is a Selma, Alabama resident. Her father and her mother both took she and her siblings to the polls, helped with voter registration, the whole nine. So as she grew into her own person, she decided that she wanted to give back. And creating FASKIA was one of those ways. FASKIA, done many things since COVID. We've helped essential workers. We've provided meals for police officers, for nurses at Wellstar Cobb Hospital. In April, we have our annual masquerade charity ball, but because of COVID, we couldn't have it. So hopefully in 2021, we will be able to do that. And within that, we will honor scholarship recipients. We do give scholarship funds. And as a recipient of my employer's Founders Award, it's an award that's given to one employee within our organization who exudes the owners or the founding owner, his premise of giving back and being a voice in the community. I won that award and I was able to donate 2 sizable grants to both FASKIA and to Rare Pearls Mentoring and Leadership. Rare Pearls Mentoring and Leadership is a youth organization. I mentioned that to you earlier, Ms. Holmes and Mr. Brody, that I am an advocate youth supporter. I have 2 sons, 16 and 20. My oldest is a third year at Tuskegee University. I'm dating myself. And my 16-year-old, he's a 10th grader at McEachern High School. And they know that I will always have some type of slogan, some type of acronym. One of my favorites is create your own cushion, CYOC. I believe in that, and all of my mentees and all my youth advocates and all of my friends know that if I see a kid, I'm gonna talk to that kid. So there's this one particular question that's on this panel that is near and dear to me, and it's dealing with our kids. So I want all of my people out there who are my directors and assistant directors to pay attention to this, because this is something that really is going to make a difference in the future of our kids and our youth. But enough about me. Oh, let me mention Ball Nation Rocks Against Cancer. It's a nonprofit organization as well that I'm a member of, a director of operations. Our founding leader is Bernita Rose Love. She's actually doing a Facebook Live right now promoting our organization. We are an organization that also gives back, provides services, peer-to-peer services for those that are battling cancer, who fought and won, and for those who are caregivers for cancer sufferers. So those are the things that keep me busy. And I thank you, Leroy, for being the brainchild behind this series. It's been absolutely amazing. I've had people reach out to me for the last couple of weeks when they realized that I would be hosting this or moderating this, asking me, oh my God, please, I'm not gonna miss this. It's gonna be on my calendar. So with no further delay, I would like to introduce our candidates. And Brody, Mr. Brody, I know you don't mind this, but ladies first. All right, so Ms. Joyette Holmes, she's a candidate for Cobb County District Attorney. She is the current district attorney for Cobb County, was appointed by Governor Brian Kemp in June of 2019. She has extensive background. She's very smart. Her background, and the reason why she became an attorney was because of her watching Law and Order. So I would like to give her an opportunity to introduce herself and to allow everyone to get to know her personally. So Ms. Holmes, if you could.
Well, thank you, Felicia. Thank you, Leroy. Thank you to the Cobb Community Alliance for giving us this space to talk about who we are, what our missions are for the roles that we serve. So I am Joyette Holmes, your Cobb County District Attorney. I'm a Georgia girl. I was born and raised in Valdosta, Georgia. My dad retired from the Air Force as a Master Sergeant there. And so that was home for me. Both of my parents served through Prince Hall Masonic organizations, the Shrine, and its auxiliary in our community. And so service was something that was daily in my household, whether it was in front of the grocery store educating people on sickle cell anemia and how to help, or providing school supplies by selling plates at the fish fry. They served every day. And so when I started watching the TV show Law and Order, as Felicia talked about, the way that I knew I was going to end up serving was as a lawyer. I didn't have lawyers in my family, but watching that show intrigued me. And I saw how through work and service in the courtroom, they could help people in their community. And now that didn't tell the story. And I'll tell a little bit about that as I talk about what we have been doing. But so from Valdosta, I went to the University of Georgia, where I graduated with a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology and Criminal Justice. Spent my last semester in Cobb County, interning with the Cobb County Juvenile Court, where I really got my true first looks into the courtroom, as well as into the school system, and could see where there was a gap in how we served through the courts with our youth and those who are impacted by juvenile justice. So in the 6 months between undergrad and law school, I ended up teaching at Central Alternative School, which was the school where when kids for behavioral reasons couldn't stay in the regular schools that they would go to, and was able to work with a youth organization called GEMS. The principal at Clarkdale Elementary, Dr. Liz Maynard, actually started that program, and I had the fortune of working with her through that. So then I went to law school, finished law school at the University of Baltimore, started my practice there as a public defender, working to defend clients who could not afford to hire their own attorney. We decided to move back to Georgia, and I say we. My husband, Bridges, and I have been married almost 20 years now. He is a Cobb County native. So when we decided to come back to Georgia, Cobb County was an obvious choice for us. I worked as an assistant solicitor general in the Cobb County Solicitor's Office, opened my own law firm, and served for 7 years in that law firm, where I operated that business, served clients as a defense attorney, private and public, as well as some family law cases. I ran for office in 2012, and let me tell you, it was the best experience, even though I didn't win that election, because it made me know Cobb County. It made me know that the work that we do in the courthouse cannot be done in the right way if you don't know the community that you're serving, if you don't know the needs that are in your community from a perspective of criminal justice. And so it gave me that opportunity to learn. So when I went into the district attorney's office as an assistant DA, prosecuting as I had defended every case from a traffic offense through a murder case, I got to see more of what was needed and where the gaps were. So you can imagine being then appointed and elected as your chief magistrate judge, working 24 hours a day, 365 days a year to serve individuals, citizens of Cobb County, from civil to criminal cases, that experience as a defense attorney, a business owner, an assistant prosecutor was used in every single part of what we did in that courthouse. We were able to bring courtroom into the classroom so we could teach. And so I knew when I went into the district attorney's office that being ministers of justice, as prosecutors are called to do, I had done those things in the other roles that were necessary to ensure access to justice, fairness, equality in our criminal justice system. And so when we look at those code of ethics, which say that as prosecutors, we have to educate, find opportunities for prevention, and also restore when there is an impact in the criminal justice system, whether you're talking about a victim or a defendant, that we could do that the experience that I had in all those other roles would be brought to bear with the staff and team of 150 people in that DA's office to serve this community, Cobb County. And I am blessed and honored to be able to do that. And I ask that as we go through this evening, that you listen to the service and listen to the ways that we will continue to do what we are doing, and support me, Joyette Holmes, to continue in this role as district attorney. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Ms. Holmes, for that introduction. 20 years of marriage. My husband and I, we celebrated 25 last month. So congratulations on that.
Congratulations to you as well. I tell you, it's a blessing.
Thank you. It is. Mr. Brody, we would like for you to introduce yourself. And I've read your bios, and you have a very interesting history. And we chatted a little bit before we got on live, but your experience in the military is intriguing to me. My brother is a retired Navy chief from the U.S. Navy, so I get that. And I would like for you to take this opportunity to introduce yourself as a candidate for the Cobb County District Attorney seat.
Felicia and Leroy, first of all, thank you for the Cobb Community Alliance for having this forum, allowing us to introduce ourselves and let people learn about who we are. My military service starts way back in World War II with my grandfather. He actually served in World War II as part of the Red Ball Express as a truck driver, driving munitions and food back and forth from the front line to the beach. I really didn't get to know my grandfather till later in my life, but after learning about him and reading about the things that they did, he was an awesome man. My father also served in the military for 20 years. Somehow he avoided going to Vietnam, but he taught me work ethic more than anything. Every morning, watching him get up and go to work without fail taught me a whole lot, and it's one of the hallmarks of my life is to making sure that I get up every morning and go to work. When I first decided to join the service, I was probably about 7 years old. And I was watching my father, his unit, they had a big parade day. And from that day forward, I wanted to be a soldier. Well, I just happened to be a smart kid in school. So I first went to college at Tennessee State University in Nashville. After going to Tennessee State for a year, I said, you know, my real passion is to join the military. So I joined the military after 1 year at Tennessee State University. I joined as an infantryman because I really thought our country was in a position where we were going to go off to war, and I wanted to be a soldier. And my vision of life at that time was I was going to be a soldier, I was going to go off to war, I was going to die, I was going to get buried at Arlington. Never imagined that I would go any further than the age of 21. But here I am. And as I took my time in the service, one of the things I did was I taught ROTC at Seton Hall University. And during the summer, I would do a program with Upward Bound where we would teach teenagers who were going from 8th grade to 9th grade. The program was called Rapid Orientation Towards College. And what Seton Hall did was each and every person that was in that program, and we had about 20 kids, if they graduated high school, Seton Hall gave them a scholarship, a full ride scholarship. And so we met with the kids at least once a month, but during the summer we had them at camp for 2 weeks. And it was always a great time because my daughter would come up and spend that 2 weeks with us. And we would always have a great time challenging the kids to do things that were totally beyond what they would normally do. And these were kids from Newark, New Jersey. So they were city kids who really had never been in the country, never been in the woods, but had an opportunity to learn and grow during that challenging time for them. And almost every single one of them that joined that program would graduate and go on to Seton Hall University with a full ride scholarship. So I was very, very proud of them and very grateful for the work I got to do with those youth. One of the things that it let me see though is just how challenging it is for our minority students. Just how challenging, one, just getting into college period, and two, doing well enough to graduate. And one of the reasons why I joined the military was because, you know, I wanted to challenge and to see the world, and I was able to do that, and I got to do so many different things. But when it came time for me to leave the military, I said, what am I going to do? And one of the things I said, you know, if I can be a lawyer, I can be just the opposite of what I'm doing now, because as an infantryman, you stay dirty. But in the law field, you get to wear a suit every day, you get to be clean. And I literally, the day I decided I wanted to be a lawyer, I started buying suits. I don't have those suits anymore, but I started buying suits as soon as I decided to become a lawyer. Well, my path to being a lawyer got interrupted because of 9/11. When 9/11 happened, I was at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. I was a platoon sergeant in the 101st Airborne Division. And of course, as soon as 9/11 happened, we got orders to go to war. Somehow I missed that because I got orders to go teach ROTC. But while I was in ROTC, I started going to law school at Seton Hall School of Law there in Newark. After 3 years, I was in the evening program, so it's a 4-year program. After 3 years, the Army said, no, we're going to send you to Germany, we're going to send you to Iraq. I ended up going to Iraq. I spent 16 years as the first sergeant of Alpha, 16 months as the first sergeant of Alpha Company 1/6 Infantry. And one of the things that I learned more than anything with these young men is to have expectations of them. The more I expected of them, the more I gave them. And it's something I've learned all throughout my career in the military, all throughout my career as a prosecutor, is that the more I expect from somebody, the more they're going to give me. And that's one of the things that I want to bring to the district attorney's office, because we have a whole bunch of folks that come into the criminal justice system without good backgrounds, that have never been expected anything of them. And now we're like, okay, what are we going to do when we return them to the community? And so we have to raise those expectations of the community. We have to raise the expectations of our prosecutors. We have to raise the expectation of our judges in order to make sure that we restore people back to the community as productive citizens. You know, our main focus as a district attorney is public safety. And the way we do that is by reducing recidivism rates, helping people become economically viable, and doing the things that they need to do. So it's a great way for us to move on and make sure our community stays safe. Now, for me, just a little bit about me. I was born in New York. My father was in the Army, moved around all around the country. We settled in Birmingham, Alabama, and that's where I went to high school and then on to Tennessee State. I've got an undergraduate degree from Austin Peay State University in Clarksville, Tennessee. I've got a master's degree from Kennesaw State University, so go Owls. And I've got my law degree from Seton Hall University School of Law. 26 years in the military, 16 months in combat with Alpha Company 16th Infantry. There's a whole lot of things that I truly appreciate that I've had an opportunity to see and experience. And it has all taught me what is going to be necessary to be the best prosecutor I can be. And that's why I'm glad this forum is being held, so people can understand how I look at things and how I feel and think we can make Cobb County even better than what it is. And these are the things that I'm going to talk about as we ask these questions. And these are things that I've already put in place and done since I've been a prosecutor here in Cobb County for the past 12 years. So once again, thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for Ms. Holmes. Thank you for the community in whole, because we've got a good chance to make some good history here in Cobb County, and I really appreciate this opportunity.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the introduction, Mr. Brody. We're going to go right into the questions, and I want to remind the candidates that we are limited to 3 minutes each. I know that you all are attorneys, so I'm going to need you guys to work on that. So we're going to start with the first question, and I would like to present this to Ms. Holmes. In reviewing both of your bios, they are both very impressive. Is there any one thing about your career that you would like to highlight to help our viewers in making their decision of whom to choose? You're muted.
Appreciate that. I appreciate you. Thank you. So the one thread that has been common in all the roles that I've had is the mission. The mission has always been about making sure that we uphold our Constitution and make sure that the rights of those people who are impacted, whether it's a defendant, a victim, or the community at large, that they are taken care of in the criminal justice system. So it did not matter that I was a defense attorney. It did not matter that I was a prosecutor or a judge. You know, people have said, well, you talked about your dream to be a judge, your dream to do that in your career, and you reached that, but then you wanted to become the district attorney. Why is that? Well, it was because of the mission. The district attorney has the opportunity to make public safety a priority by making sure that we take a 360-degree approach to that. We can't just sit in the courthouse and prosecute. We have to be talking about those things that make our community better. And so the mission, it's not a particular position that I have been in that I'll highlight, but just knowing that that mission has never changed. Even if I as an individual had reached what I thought would be my career goal, I know that being a servant leader means that I do the things that really impact and make this community better. And so as we go out and we talk about the things that we do, we know that those things that we talk about have to be put into bullet points and then have to be put into action. And so that's what I'd like to highlight is just the mission to do the work, the mission to uphold the Constitution, the mission to protect your friends and family who chose to live in Cobb County, to protect the businesses that you chose to start in Cobb County, to protect the opportunity to advocate, regardless of the role that you are in, whether you are a child advocate in law enforcement, a nonprofit director, or working as a teacher in a school, that you know that the people who are serving you in the role of district attorney is because they have a mission to serve and uphold those rights and responsibilities of each and every one of us. So thank you so much for that question, because I don't think it's particular to a role that I've had throughout my career. It is truly about that mission and knowing that the mission cuts across each and every one of those.
Very good. Thank you very much. Mr. Brody, do you need me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
Okay. The question is, in reviewing both of your bios, they are both very impressive. Is there any one thing about your career that you would like to highlight to help our viewers in making their decision of whom to choose?
Okay. The first thing I'd like to highlight is that, for my entire adult life, I have served this community and this nation, 26 years in the Army and now 12 years here at Cobb County. But the 26 years in the Army, I think, are so important to visit at when you look at what I did in the Army. I was an infantryman the entire time I was in service. And from that time, most of the people I interacted with were 17 to 24-year-old males. If we want to take a cross section about who are the ones who are most in danger of going the wrong way in our community, it's those same 17 to 24-year-old males. And my entire military career was training, teaching, and caring for those males. And I have to highlight something one of my soldiers said on Facebook. He said that if there was a quote that described my time with the company, with Alpha Company 161 Infantry, the quote was, let me see if I can remember it correctly. If you care for your soldiers or you care for your men as though they were your own sons, they will follow you anywhere. And that's the way I've always approached my mentorship towards others, is to make sure that they know I care about them. And I'm so focused on them getting what they want out of life. And I used to do this with my soldiers all the time. As soon as they came into the unit, the first thing I would ask them is, what do you want to do 5 years, 10 years from now? And most of them would say something to the effect that, I want to make a career out of the military. And I would always tell them, well, sooner or later, you got to get out of the military. So you need to start planning for that now. And I would get them enrolled in school, doing everything they could so that even if they left the military, they were prepared to leave and then move on to do better things. And I know for community-wise, that's one of the things we don't do a good job of, is taking these young men and saying, hey, what do you really want to be in the future? Let's set that map and that goal to make that happen. And we've got to do that. And I think that's the biggest thing I want to highlight about my military service, because it relates when we come back to being a prosecutor. I've been in front of judges where I asked the judge, I said, look, Your Honor, this young man has not finished school. So normally on this charge, we may assign community service. So instead of community service, let's say every hour he's in school, either for a GED or enroll back in high school, let that time count as his community service. Let's push him to be a better person. And I think that is so critical in what we're trying to do as prosecutors and in the role of taking care of our community. I've defended the Constitution for 38 years. I've focused that defense on making sure that everybody has the same opportunities that any other person has in this country. And the court system is the first place where people get the perception that that's not the case. And we've got to change that. And that's how that experience falls in line and how I can work that in the district attorney's office.
Awesome. One thing I can say about both of you is that your community service in terms of youth advocacy is common, and we need that. We need more youth advocates, especially for our Black males. Let me just be very, very honest with that. And I appreciate all of your work outside of what you're doing in the courtroom. The second question is, and I pose this to you, Mr. Brody. Given the longstanding economic impact of COVID-19 pandemic on millions of people throughout this country, and Cobb County in particular, what is your position on the role of the DA's office in protecting people from landlord evictions rooted in people's inability to pay rent due to no fault of their own? It's a long question.
Well,
you want me to repeat it?
No, I think I
Got it?
heard what you said, and I think I understand the question.
In
For
3
the district
minutes.
attorney,
Wanna
the
remind you.
biggest thing that we have to realize is when someone is arrested, we take them away from their ability to earn a living, their ability to work and earn money to take care of their households. So one of the things that we need to do is we need to initially assess whether this person is a danger to the community. And if they're not a danger to the community, get them out on bond so they can go back to work, make sure they can take care of their households. A lot of people have lost their jobs because of the COVID-19. What we can do as district attorneys is make sure that when we can, send people to a diversion program, send people to an accountability court program, so charges do not end up on their record that can keep them further from being able to get a job. It's going to be critical for us to take an assessment of our community and figure out how are we helping people who come in front of us? What are we doing to make sure that once they return to the community, they don't have to resort back to crime? And I think that's going to be critical decisions that we have to make as a district attorney to show people that our ultimate goal is that your economic opportunities are not destroyed because of your criminal record, unless you are harm to the community. And if you're a harm to the community, then all bets are off. We're going to have to send you away because we don't want you to harm our community. But if you're a nonviolent offender, we're going to have to do everything to get you back into the community, have you working, have you being able to take care of what you need to take care of. As far as the magistrate court role, the magistrate court judge is the one who handles the evictions. They're the ones who are going to decide when they're going to start hearing those eviction hearings and what's going to happen. So we don't have much of a role as far as the magistrate court is concerned, as far as evictions are concerned. But our role will be that for those who come before us in Superior Court is to make sure that we return them back to the community to be able to provide for themselves if they are nonviolent offenders.
Very good. Ms. Holmes, would you like for me to repeat the question?
No, ma'am. Thank you. So I'll start with my experience as the chief magistrate judge. I had the opportunity in presiding over those eviction cases to see what the needs were of those families. And a lot of times it was because there was a significant economic impact on those families and their ability to pay the rent. Now this was pre-COVID, so I can only imagine what COVID effects have had on that. So in my role as a community member and being on the board of Cobb Community Foundation, Must Ministries, and the Davis Direction Foundation, it has allowed me to help and advocate in those spaces for opportunities for housing grants or help for those families and what they may have needed peripherally. So not just for the apartment itself, but the needs within the apartment, whether it's keeping the water on, the electricity on, or having clothes for the youth that were in that home. So through that experience and through putting together with Cobb Community Foundation a survey of where the needs were in the county, we were able to additionally help with that. So how did my role as the chief magistrate judge and as a member of the board of directors of these organizations impact me in the district attorney's office? Well, we, for the first time in Cobb County history, did an expungement event under my Project Restore 360. So in that event, we were able to take those people who had been impacted by the criminal justice system, whether it was they completed a first offender, conditional discharge, had their case dismissed for diversion, or were just never prosecuted, those still were on their records. So if they qualified, we were able to restrict those records or expunge them as people know them. We also brought every judge from the courts in Cobb County to come in and also seal those clerk's office records so employers couldn't do an end around and fire somebody so that they wouldn't have a job and money to pay for those apartments, so they would stay in those apartments and not be evicted. But we didn't stop there with that project. We had over 24 employers in the room to give jobs that day so that people had that stability in their employment so that they could keep those homes. Also, we brought in mental health and substance abuse resources so that if there was an issue that led to that person being charged and not convicted, then we could resource that as well. So there is a tie to every piece of our community and the things that hurt, that impact our families, like not having a place to lay their head. So I'm grateful for what this county does as a team through nonprofits, the courts, and the district attorney's office to serve.
Okay, very good. Keep your mic on, Ms. Holmes. I'm going to ask you this question first. Do you believe the district attorney's office should revisit cases in which individuals have been wrongfully convicted, and what mechanism or resources do you intend to employ to address such cases?
Absolutely. We are, by our code of ethics, which is set by the American Bar Association, being those ministers of justice, it requires us to do just that. You know, you hear on TV, and we talked about law and order, where people will say, my conviction rate is, I have convicted 100% of the people I've taken to trial. Well, that's not what we are supposed to lead with. We are supposed to lead with making sure that we do justice, and justice for all, not just for one segment of our community, but for all. So when you talk about revisiting cases, if something was not done properly, then we have an obligation to make sure that that changes. And you know, it's not even just about cases where people are wrongfully convicted. Sometimes the sentences are not really appropriate for what the facts were in that case. And in changing times, when you see, like for instance, with criminal justice reform and accountability courts and the ability to serve people through mental health treatment, substance use treatment, and other resources, that custody time may not have been the best thing for that particular case. So when attorneys bring cases to us like that, we do look at them again and see if the sentence that, and it might have been 10 years ago, but if that person is still serving and the sentence does not seem appropriate today, we will adjust that. And the law does give us a mechanism to consent to modifications on those sentences to make what wasn't right, right.
Awesome, thank you. Mr. Brody, would you like for me to repeat the question? Your mic, okay. The question is, do you believe the district attorney's office should revisit cases in which individuals have been wrongfully convicted, and what mechanism or resources do you intend to employ to address such cases? 3 minutes.
The first answer is yes. And what I would like to do, and I've talked to the defense bar about this, is set up a truth and reconciliation panel. And that panel will include officers, defense bars, the community advocates from the NAACP, SCLC, and also, of course, prosecutors. So that anytime someone comes up in a situation where they feel or have hard evidence that someone was wrongfully convicted, that panel will take a look at it and say, and review the case and move forward from there. And if it is a wrongful conviction, do what we need to do to make it right. Because just like Ms. Holmes says, our full goal is justice. It's not convictions, and truth matters. If you know your conviction rate, then you're not seeking justice. Your focus should totally be on justice and making sure that everybody gets a fair and equitable trial. So that's one of the things I'd like to do. Speaking of the Restore 360 program, the state of Georgia has always had a program where you could get your records restricted if you were either not convicted, had a first offender sentence, or you completed diversion. Right now, the Democrats in the state legislature have entered Senate Bill 288, and that bill is designed to open up the restrictions even further, that if you have a misdemeanor offense that's over 4 years old, that you can get that misdemeanor offense taken off your record. It has not been signed by the Republican governor yet, and I'm guessing that's because 9 Democrats are the ones who who proposed it. So I'm guessing maybe he'll sign it sooner or later, but that is one step forward in criminal justice reform, because what we see is a lot of times is people have convictions that are 10, 12 years old, and those convictions keep them from getting work, keep them from getting housing. It does a lot of things to them that is detrimental to their well-being. And what we don't want is people not being able to continue on and get good jobs and be part of the community because of past convictions that they've overcome and gotten themselves better. So with that Truth and Reconciliation panel, its sole desire is to say, okay, if we did something wrong, let's fix it. And even in Cobb County, we had 3 cases overturned for bad evidence not too long ago. I want to say it was 5 or 6 months ago, that in some case, in a case like that, we would revisit and decide which way we're going to go forward, because our full goal is going to be justice. It's going to make sure that every defender that comes before that court gets equal and fair, equitable justice, no matter who they are, no matter how much money they have. We're going to seek justice for them as well as the victims of the community.
Very good. Thank you. Keep your mic on, Mr. Brody. This question is going to go to you. Three-minute max, please. Just as a jury should reflect the diversity of the community, and many now have requested that police officers should also reflect the diversity of the community that they serve. Do you believe that the DA's office should adopt this same diversity standard in Cobb County?
I would hope that we would adopt the same diversity standard. What we want to do is make sure we are a reflection of the community. And in that way, the perception most have when they come into the court and only see minorities, hopefully we can take away that perception and make there a reality that the Cobb judicial system is fair and equitable for everyone. So yes, I do feel that we should reflect the community as far as what we have in our office, the diversity of our office, yes.
Part B to that question, what steps will you take if you're elected?
Well, the first thing that we're going to do is to look at the people that we have in the office to make sure that they reflect that diversity. And if they don't reflect that diversity, make sure that there's no implicit bias that's going to cause them to bring about a sentence or a charge that would not necessarily be equal and fair to each and every person in there. I do not intend to go in and trying to fire anybody or anything, but I will make sure that the people that we have in the office buy into my vision of what the office should be. My role then is to impart that vision to the current prosecutors, and those that want to stay because they believe in that, they'll stay. And those that want to go, they'll go. That's basically what's going to happen. I'm even willing to commit that if I win, and I feel that I will, that I want Ms. Holmes to stay on, because she has a bounty of ideas that we can work together and make happen. That diversity is needed in the office, and I think we can really make some great strides here in Cobb County.
Thank you very much. Ms. Holmes, would you like for me to repeat the question?
No, ma'am. Thank you, though. So I absolutely believe the office should reflect the diversity of the community. And in doing that, one of the things that we did with the office was take small groups and talk about what that meant to me. Having been the first female and African-American to serve in the role of district attorney, there was a perspective that was different from my predecessors. And so it was important for me to share with the staff who are currently in the office what that means for how we look at cases, and not look at cases in the way that we prosecute in the office in the same way. So when there is an opportunity to bring new people into the office, and it doesn't matter if they're an attorney, an investigator, an advocate, or an administrative staff, we do have to make sure that we have a perspective that reflects our community. When we are looking to make sure that that diversity is there, diversity of thought is different than just what it looks like on the outside. So making sure that we are talking about what our blind spots are. I have blind spots. Everybody that comes into that space has a blind spot. So we have to talk about it openly. And we've had the opportunity to do that, and we'll continue to do it. So we've done two things. With our team, we have had conversations about what we mean when we say implicit bias and systemic. I go back to me being the first female and African-American. It's only been since the 1920s that as a woman, I had rights. And it's only been since the late 1960s that as a Black woman, I had rights. I talked to my team about that. And it's only been since 2019 that someone saw fit that a African-American female should serve in this role. So we're not talking about your grandparents and your great-grandparents' history. We're talking about the now. And the team has to know that. The community has to know, understand, and reflect it. So the second thing we have done is start a public safety, community, and diversity coalition, which includes every law enforcement organization within Cobb, including school resource officers in Kennesaw State. We have engaged with them and are working on a memoranda of understanding for modules that we will teach over and over to the staff that comes into the DA's office, the law enforcement that comes to work inside Cobb County, and the community organizations that help us to labor in the work that we do. So it is vitally important that we have diversity in the people who serve, diversity in thought, and make sure that we are looking at each case in that frame so that we are doing the right thing to make justice programs accessible and justice for all is found in the cases that we work.
I can assure you that after this forum, you're going to have an influx, both of you, whoever may win, of people volunteering in some capacity to help you in that effort. I can assure you that. I know for a fact one organization. So the next question I like to pose is to Ms. Holmes. What types of cases or circumstances do you see the DA's office could be conflicted from, thereby requiring the appointment of an independent investigator?
Right. So we have, obviously, not long after coming into the role, the Attorney General for the state of Georgia appointed me in my office to handle a case in Brunswick. And that was as a result of a number of prior district attorneys' offices being conflicted out, either for reasons of internal conflicts or the inability to handle the matters based on the size of the circuit. So there are a number of reasons why an office would be conflicted off of a case. What that situation, and I'm talking about the Ahmaud Arbery case and other cases in which our offices and other offices have been conflicted from, is that we have to be particularly mindful of the perception of conflict, even when there may not be a legal conflict in that case. Because when we talk about fairness and making sure that our citizens and our community members feel like a case is going to be handled properly, that they are not looking at things that they believe could affect or influence a case. And so sometimes it is more about what the community sees. And I never, in my role as district attorney, in my role as a judge, would never want a community member to feel like their case could not be handled properly because of some either actual and legal conflict or some perceived conflict. So every day in the district attorney's office and in the solicitor's office, there are cases that move back and forth through a conflict request with the Attorney General's office. So it's not just large national media type cases. There may be speeding tickets because of the family member to a law enforcement officer in that agency. It may be a DUI case. It may be an aggravated assault because of the grandfather who is accused in that case. So there are so many reasons why that happened, but we do it to make sure that there is the appearance of propriety and actual propriety in how those cases are handled.
Thank you very much. Mr. Brody, would you like for me to repeat the question?
No, the explanation Ms. Holmes gave was a perfect explanation. Basically, the the appearance of impropriety is what you want to avoid. And I had a situation in state court where my daughter got a ticket, and for some reason it got assigned to my courtroom. And so of course some other prosecutor had to come and take care of it. And because of the impropriety, you know, nobody in my office could take care of it because it was my daughter. So those are the things that you want to avoid. The other thing that I want to say about that, especially with the Ahmaud Arbery case, you had two prosecutors down in that had ties to the defendants in that case. One used to work in one of the offices. The other one had a relative that worked in the office. And so it was an issue where the governor felt that they needed to go somewhere else, and the prosecutors didn't want to prosecute their friend in that case. And one of the things that I want to make sure that we understand is, because it relates to the situation out at the Adult Detention Center in Cobb County. Many people believe that that place has not been investigated because it's always been a Republican DA and a Republican sheriff. Over 50 people have died in the last 16 years out at the Cobb County Adult Detention Center, where we have not yet had a focused investigation to see what was going on out there, to make sure that we have procedures and processes in place to make sure this didn't happen. And not till recently, when Ms. Holmes asked for the Northern District Attorney of Georgia, U.S. Attorney of Georgia to look into this matter, has a true investigation been instituted. And at this point in time, the Wingo case, which is the one most in the headlines, that case happened 2.5 months after Ms. Holmes came on board, and she's been on board for over a year now. And even prior to her coming on board, 3 weeks prior to her coming on board, there was a death in the jail. We cannot let partisan politics make us or have us not do our job. We have to look past those things. If it's a conflict, no problem. Find somebody that can come in and take over the investigation. Call the GBI, make sure they do an independent investigation, so that way we are held accountable for the actions of our leaders here in Cobb County, making sure that we're doing right by each and every person in the county. That is so important in everything that we do. And that's part of the conflicting situation problem, is we got to make sure that we prosecute properly, we seek investigations properly, and we do what's right, no matter what the partisan politics tell us to do. Because our duty is to our citizens and not to our party.
Absolutely, absolutely. To say that this year's election is important is an understatement. It's an understatement. So we're going to go to the last couple of questions. And this one will be directed to you, Mr. Brody.
Okay.
What role, if any, should the DA's office play in working with any Cobb County Complaint Review Board to address improper police conduct? I can repeat that for you. What role, if any, should the DA's office play in working with any Cobb County Complaint Review Board to address improper police conduct? 3 minutes.
Well, the first thing you have to do is go back to the oath that we take of office. And that oath says we are to defend the Constitution of the United States and the state of Georgia. And that Constitution protects every citizen of this state. Every person that lays foot in this state, that Constitution protects them. So our role as the district attorney is to make sure that our police force, our law enforcement officers are doing right by each and every person in this state. And we have to take the role of, if they do something wrong, we have to prosecute them for that. If they gather evidence in the wrong way, we have to dismiss the case for the offender. We are ministers of justice. We are the carriers of justice in this state. And we need to make sure that each and everything we do is focused on our defense of the Constitution and the rights that everyone is entitled to. If we don't do that, then we're not doing our job, because not only is our right to the victims and the community, but also to those defenders that come before us. They have rights. We have to protect those rights, just like we protect our victims' rights.
Well said. Thank you very much. Ms. Holmes, would you like for me to repeat the question?
No, ma'am. Thank you. So yes, I do believe that there should be a citizen review board. And I do think that's something that the county is looking back into to do in those situations. I think the district attorney's office should not have a role in that citizens review board, because let me talk about what happens. In every officer involved shooting or excessive use of force in Cobb County, the agencies, the police agencies within the county PD, as well as the city PDs, call in the GBI automatically to do that third-party independent investigative review. Once that review is complete, that file is sent to the district attorney's office so that we can review it, and then, not as a matter of discretion, but in every case, put it before the grand jury. Now, the last question you asked was about conflicts. And if we had a role in that citizens review board, that would create a conflict in every single case. So while there should definitely be one that exists, so that the citizens have a role in their county government and the oversight of policing, I don't think the DA's office should have a person that sits on that or should oversee that, but we should have access to the information that comes out so that when we do that non-discretionary review and then presentation to the grand jury, that's just another piece of information that we have, that we are able to make the right decisions and not create conflicts for those cases.
I must say, I'm intrigued. I really am intrigued. Leroy, he's like, smile, Felicia, smile. I'm so in tune to you guys. This is really good. This is really good. I'm gonna ask you this question, and it's this question based on my history and experience of being a youth advocate. My mom told me, she's like, I'm not understanding why you're not a teacher, why you're not in education, why you're not. Well, I feel like I have a different purpose in life, and that is coming in and being very unbiased when it comes to dealing with children and youth. This question has to do with the juvenile offenders program, the juveniles, and what can we do? So this is a question: what are some of the greatest challenges in dealing with juvenile offenders, and what plan do you have for reducing juvenile recidivism? And for the layman terms, for those who are listening in, what does that mean? It refers to a person who has a relapse, repeat offenders. So what are you guys gonna do in this role as district attorney for Cobb County to prevent that?
Yes. So that is definitely a deep concern. And so what we are lacking now, while we have a number of organizations throughout Cobb County, nonprofit, school-related, and otherwise, who look to serve youth in that very way, the connection with the juvenile court system is not always as tight as it should be or could be. Now, I am very encouraged at the programs, including accountability courts in the juvenile court, that the district attorney's office also participates in to help try to stop that recidivism, including a group called Rising, which helps to stop the gap of youth who may be leaning towards gang involvement and trying to keep them out of that cycle. And a lot of people may not know, but the cases that are prosecuted in juvenile court are represented by attorneys in the district attorney's office as well. So with the accountability court program and with Rising, we team up with the juvenile court probation, their gang suppression unit, Kit Cummings, who has a Power of Peace project, and other local organizations, like I said, who help to be that stopgap between those youth who seem to be leading in that direction, so that they can walk away with the resources, with the mentorships, with opportunities outside of what the criminal justice system and juvenile court system does not offer to them. Because again, we're not talking about the now, we're talking about the next. And there is a bright future for these youth in Cobb County. We want to make sure we're a part of that. So as we continue, not just through the juvenile court system and that program, but we are making that connection with the school resource officers through that diversity coalition that I talked about, so we can work on diverting those cases from a petition for delinquency, which is a juvenile court charge, and instead through the community in that 360-degree approach. Because we've got to educate about the court system. We have to educate about what opportunities are out there aside from what those people who mean bad for them would tell them that the opportunities are. We are also teaming up with game changers for our youth who are 17 and older, because they're not considered juveniles in the criminal justice system once they turn 17. So the youthful offenders that we have, that we take through the diversion program, we have expanded that to include organizations like Game Changers and Urban League, and certainly looking for other organizations to partner for those mentors to talk to them about continuing education, employment, trades, fatherhood. We can't leave out the fact that some of our young men do become fathers before they finish their education, but the Urban League's Fatherhood Program, which is a grant organization, allows us to cycle them through that process without the fear of not being able to pay for the program, but have the resource right there to divert them from a criminal record and instead a life record of progress, of prosperity, of productivity. So those are the things that we are doing, because it is vitally important that we surround our youth, that we surround those who may have been impacted by the criminal justice system, so that doesn't become their next.
In 15 seconds or less, and Leroy, don't get me on this. Taking the DA's hat off, this is not a part of the question. Just being Miss Joyette Holmes, and you see a young person who is clearly out of line, not in order, what would you do as just Miss Joyette Holmes? How would you address it in less than 15 seconds?
Oh yeah, take that youth aside and say, what do you want to do? Let's connect you to somebody in that space. That's what I do. Through the programs and partnerships in this county, there is no lack of the opportunity to do that. So I pull them aside as Joyette Holmes and say, let's figure out what you need and take them to that person.
Very good. Mr. Brody, would you like for me to repeat that question for you, or are you in tune?
Yes, please.
Okay. The question is, what are some of the greatest challenges in dealing with juvenile offenders, and what plan do you have for reducing juvenile recidivism?
Well, I think that the biggest challenge is making sure that their family has economic opportunities and equity to allow them to envision the dreams that their children want to make happen. Because more than anything, we see young men in our South Cobb neighborhoods or low-income neighborhoods, and either there's not both parents at the house, or if there is one parent in the house, that parent is always working and not able to interact with that juvenile to make sure that they can do the things that they need to do to stay straight. And my goal would be to make sure that we impact those juveniles as early as possible. There's a period from kindergarten to first grade, from 5th grade to 6th grade, and 8th grade to 9th grade, where each of those kids are taken to a school and given an orientation for their new school. Those are periods where we can have the most impact, because we have them all together to talk to them, to make them put a plan together to realize their dreams, to assign them mentors to help them along the way. I know as a young man, one of the things that helped me more than anything was my uncle who came down from Detroit. He was a big mentor to me in helping me learn to become a man. And that's critical, that we have to have those people who are willing to step up and do that. We have a lot of great organizations here in Cobb County, but we're not putting them to use at the proper time to make sure we become we become the stopgap before they reach the juvenile court system. Because sometimes by the time they reach the juvenile court system, we're too late. And so we've got to reach them before that. And for those young men and women, we have to let them know that there's a better life, but it all orientates around the family. Is that family in a situation, an economical situation that provides them the opportunity to seek out a good future? That's what we have to look at here in Cobb County. One of the things that I hate more than anything is I was looking at the opportunity zones that Cobb County has for federal dollars. All those opportunity zones just happen to be in Central and North Cobb. None of them were in South Cobb, where we probably need the money the most. And again, the question is why? Why is that? Why are we not investing where we need the most money, where we have people who have the most economic issues? And a lot of that has to do because of our leadership. The leadership has said, you know, we just wrote off South Cobb. We wrote off those individuals because we feel like they can't do no better. Well, that's the wrong expectation. As I said before, when I talked about my military service, the more we expect from our young people, the more they're going to give us. It's just up to us to reach them and to make them and tell them, this is what I expect from you. And believe it or not, they'll give it to you. They'll even give you more than you asked for. And I've proven that over and over again in my military service. Like I said before, the young men that I impacted more than anything were 17 to 24. Those same young men are the ones that we're trying to reach and make sure that they can be viable for the rest of their life. Those are the young men that I molded in the military to become great citizens, great soldiers, and do great things. And we can do the same thing right here in Cobb County, starting as young as 5 and 6 years old, if we reach those young men and women early. And I think we can do that here in Cobb County.
Absolutely. I could not agree more. And I'm going to ask you the same question. So as Mr. Flynn Brody walking down the street with your jeans and sneakers on and a hat to the back, if you do that, what would you say to a young person who is certainly going down the wrong path? And with this, if you could combine your closing statement as we wrap up this forum.
Okay. Well, to answer your first question, I actually had an incident here in Cobb County. I was actually walking to the office from lunch, and I saw a young man coming from Superior Court. Behind him was a young lady and her mother. And I guess they had come to court for something. I don't know what it was, but they were arguing back and forth to each other. The young man was making threats. He was saying, you just wait, I'm gonna go get my blanket. I'm gonna go get this, I'm gonna go get that. And I grabbed him. I actually pulled him aside and I said, you know what? It's not worth it. You're going to ruin your life for this minute. And he actually started to think about it. And talking to him and getting him to realize that, you know, if you do something, even if you go and get the gun and point it at her, now you've got an assault charge. It's not worth it. It's not worth destroying your life for something as simple as a minute of your time. And I've always been like that, to pull men aside and say, hey, this is how you should go on the right path. These are the things that you need to do, and make sure that you stay where you're supposed to be. Now, for my closing statement, once again,
Mr. Brody,
Yeah.
because I know that you're an attorney and the closing statement is the most important part of any case, I'm gonna allow you to separate the two, and then I'll let Ms. Holmes do her closing statement, and we'll come back to you if that's okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, again, I really want to thank you all for hosting this forum tonight. I do think it's very important that people know the importance of the local elections, including the office of the district attorney. The work that we do in the criminal justice system is not partisan work. It's work where we have to make sure that the integrity of the office is seen, where the accessibility of programs like those we've talked about this evening are available, where there truly is justice for all who are impacted by the criminal justice system. Now, as we do the work of the district attorney's office, the thing that we always make sure of when we are making public safety a priority is that we separate those cases and those individuals who scare us from those people that we are mad at. So when we talk about human trafficking and our young children and other people being trafficked for labor, whatever that labor may be. We know that those are the people that we're scared of. When we talk about drug trafficking organizations and gangs and the violent crimes that hit our neighborhoods, we're talking about the people that we're scared of. But there are people who make bad decisions, wrong choices. And yes, there's accountability for that. But at the same time, what does it profit us to commit them to a penal institution when we know that there are other options to keep them productive, to keep them in school, to keep them in their employment and in their homes, as we talked about with evictions. And so for that, the district attorney's office runs accountability courts. Now, there have been accountability courts throughout the state for years. But in 2012, Governor Deal started criminal justice reform that would expand the opportunity for accountability courts. So from the DUI courts to the drug courts, we were able to add mental health courts, veterans courts, parental accountability courts, and family treatment courts in juvenile. So those people that we are mad at, maybe because they made a wrong choice, started using, had a substance use disorder, veterans who served our country, and we thank you for that service, who have come back with PTSD and maybe self-medicated and then had a substance use disorder, that we can, through those accountability court programs, restore those things, to restore where we can. So we're not talking about recidivism. So we're not talking about someone languishing in a criminal justice system or penal institution when there was something else we could do because we were mad at them. But we know with our family that that anger goes away. And we're talking about our mothers, fathers, sons, daughters, nieces, faith community members, and the people that we work with. So we are very mindful of those things and the work that we do in the district attorney's office. We do it with keeping diversity in mind, making sure that the office looks like those people that we serve. As the chief magistrate judge and now as the district attorney, I had the opportunity to appoint African-American, Hispanic, Asian, a diverse crew of judges, staff, and people who served, so that we could all be sure that just by the face and then by the internal work that we did by the heart, that you knew that you were getting justice in that place where you were and served. And that's important. As a member of the community, as a mother of 2 teenage daughters, I want them to see that even though somebody that looked like them may not have been in the role that they want to be in, that they can do it because there's a seat at the table for them. There was a seat at the table for me. And so I know that in any way that I serve in the work that I do, that I have to do it with character, integrity, and be responsible for the role that I say I'm going to do. So I ask that as you consider me to vote for me, as early voting has started, as absentee ballots have been mailed, as November 3rd comes around, that you check out my website, joyettehomes.com, that you look at the work and the history of what I have done in serving Cobb County so that you can see it's not what I'm saying will be, but what has been. So I thank you for listening, joyettehomes.com. There's more information. You can email me at joyette@joyettehomes.com. If you have other questions, I would love to have the conversation. Thank you again to the Cobb Community Alliance. Felicia, Leroy, I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Mr. Brody, your closing statement, sir.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank you for once again hosting this forum, Felicia, you and Leroy. It's been a great opportunity to introduce ourselves to our community and just focus on the things that we want to do. Once again, my name is Flynn Brody, and I'm your Democratic candidate running for district attorney in Cobb County. And the reason I emphasize Democrat, because it's been over 40-something years since we've had a Democratic district attorney here in Cobb County. And in that time, we've been seeing so many things go wrong and so many things that need to be fixed, including our adult detention center. My experience with our accountability courts through the Veterans Court and the DUI accountability courts has shown me that when we take an interest in the needs of a person and take care of those needs, we can return that person back to the community as a productive citizen. And I think that is so important that when we look at justice and we focus on what we need to do for our community, of course, public safety is the #1 thing. But how do we make public safety #1? By providing and making sure that everyone has economic opportunity to be successful here in our community. And we can't do that when we send people to jail for nonviolent offenses and hold them in jail until the time it's time for them to go to court. We have to be proactive and make sure that our nonviolent offenders are released as soon as possible so they can get back to the community, get back to their jobs, get back to their family, to make sure that they don't fall any further behind. Yes, they're going to have to answer for their charge, but in most of those cases, we'll be able to stir them to either diversion or an accountability court so those charges do not remain on their record for life. That is one of the key goals that I hope to impose here as your district attorney. We figure that, and we must at all times focus on justice, equality, equity in our criminal justice system, because if we don't do that, we're going to continue the perception that we currently have that when we walk into the courtroom as a minority, that's all we see as minority. Our office will reflect our community, and you will be able to talk to a prosecutor who understands where you're at and what your role is, taking a holistic approach to any offender that comes before them. Our focus will be to make sure our community is safe, but by reducing recidivism, providing economic opportunity so that each and every person in our community will have an opportunity to be the person that they want to be in this community. We have a great community in Cobb County. We have a great law enforcement officers in our county. There are some things that are wrong, but these things are minor and we can fix them. But the most important thing is to make sure that we're seeking justice for each and every person. My website tells you a lot about me. It tells you about my wartime experience. It tells you about my accountability experience. What it doesn't tell you is that I'm a member of Zion Baptist Church, and I've been at Zion Baptist Church for the last 11 years. And for that 11 years, I've been focused on my role in my life, my religious role in my life, as far as my walk with God. Me and my wife are part of the marriage ministry. We're also part of the men's and women's ministry, respectively. We do a lot of things for God because we believe in what He has asked us to do. And I truly believe that He's called for us now to make a difference here in Cobb County, to make a difference in the lives of those who have been so far, voices have not been heard. And as a Democrat, I believe we can do that here. Without a Democrat in the office in the last 40 years, we have had 50 deaths in the jail. And it's time for us to make a change and find someone who's going to listen to us, who's going to do what we need to do to make our community safer. Someone who's going to be able to bring back fairness, justice, and equality. You can find my website at electbrody.com. Find me on Facebook at Flynn D. Brody Jr. Please call me, email me, ask me any questions that you may have. Let me tell you about my experience and why I think I should be your district attorney. I'm an open book, and I'm willing to do what needs to be done in Cobb County to make sure that we all get fair and equal justice and economic opportunity to be the best person that we can be. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. joyahomes.com is her website, and electbrody.com is Mr. Flynn Brody's website. Please, guys, go out and vote if you've not already done so. Send in your absentee ballots ASAP. And remember that your voice, your vote does count. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Leroy as he closes it out for the evening. Thank you all for your participation and tuning in.
Well, first of all, thank you to everybody. You know, folks that have been watching the series know that I'm a pretty big stickler. Felicia, you could actually leave your mic on. We have it in sort of a view that everyone could be seen. Phenomenal job this evening. But this conversation was so healthy, so vibrant that I wanted to continue to let it go. So for those of you that are on the watching side, don't know that I was messaging the candidates and the moderator during the whole time. They may be surprised to know that there were 143 comments made while the two of you, three of you were speaking. So folks are still engaged. As I look at the live folks that are actually live watching this now, one of the highest numbers. So first of all, thanks to both the candidates for sharing your visions with the folks that are viewing tonight. All I can say is, wow, it's going to be some hard choices that folks in Cobb County are going to have to make. But both of you, thanks for sharing your visions with us. Felicia will also thank you once again for doing a fabulous job tonight. If I could just keep everyone's attention for just one more moment, and we will say goodnight. I do want to share, as you've seen, that this has been a discussion between Flynn Brody and Joyetta Holmes for the Cobb County District Attorney's Office. Again, there's an opportunity for you to go out and vote right now. So you have gotten the excitement, know what you need to know. You can make your vote count tomorrow. I will share with you, if my screen allows me to. Come on, screen. And I know that's my thank you, but I'm gonna jump back one more second. So again, every vote counts. We want you out there. Early voting started today, so go ahead and get your vote in. November 3rd is the last day to get your vote in. And our next session is scheduled for October 19th. We're making the final arrangements on that right now. Derletha Wells, the Bacillus of Sigma Gamma Rho, Sorority Incorporated, will be the moderator that evening. Stay tuned for the information on the confirmed candidates. And you can find that information here on the Cobb Community Alliance website. But without further ado, again, we thank everyone for staying tuned in. Thank you for keeping with the Cobb Community Alliance. And more importantly, just go out there and vote. But I'm going to do something that Felicia's already done. I'm going to ask Joyetta, if you wouldn't mind unmuting your mic for a second. I am going to go ladies first. I am going to take my screen down. Bear with me 1 second. Can you share one more time how folks can get in touch with you that want to get more information or learn more about your vision? Could you give them websites and everything else you'd like them to have?
Absolutely. Thank you for that. The website is joyettaholmes.com. On that website, there is a tab for information. If you sign up to that tab, you will get our newsletter, which talks about what we're doing, what we have done, as well as your ability to sign up to volunteer for the campaign. We are also on social media, Joyetta Holmes for District Attorney and Joyetta Holmes Cobb DA on Instagram. So please check us out. You'll find a lot of information there. But again, if you email me, and that email address is also on the website, joyetta@joyettaholmes.com, I can answer those questions for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Flynn Brody, would you mind doing the same?
No problem. My website is electbrody.com. On social media, on Facebook, I'm Flynn D. Brody Jr. On Twitter, it's Flynn D. Brody Jr. On both pages, you have information. You have volunteer buttons. You have donation buttons. Everything that you need to learn more about me. You even have my phone number, so you can call me. I will always answer the phone and answer questions to let you know that just exactly what I'm trying to do for Cobb County and what I've already done for Cobb County. I truly believe we're on the precipice of making some great strides and doing some beautiful things here in Cobb County, and I'm just glad to be a part of it.
Well, thank you. And Felicia, again, I can't thank you enough. An incredible job tonight. With that, we're gonna all say goodnight. Peace and blessings. Stay safe. Wear your mask. I think everyone here will agree with me. If we can leave you with one note, wear your mask. Wear your mask. Oh, look at that. Look at it. Flynn, she did one on you now. Do you got it, Brody?
Brody.
Okay. We're going to end on that note before it goes anyplace else. Candace, you can stay on with me just one moment.